Welcome to the first episode of Being Bold podcast, hosted by Reproductive Health Network Kenya. So, Being Bold podcast is a podcast that is aimed at bringing conversation on sexual reproductive health to young people. So, hii conversation inahusu tu adolescents na young people. Sisi kuweza kujiexpress na kuongea ndio manze stakeholders waweze kutuelewa. So, this first episode inaongelea kuhusu female genital mutilation. And on 6 February, the world marks the International Day Against Female Genital Mutilation. That's why we have amazing panelists here, and I would like them to introduce themselves as we begin this conversation.
Hi, I am Pamela. I'm a young person, kijana hivi, and I am happy to be here, and I am ready to have these conversations with you, and I hope we will gain. Thank you.
And my name is John Bogwa. I am a young person, glad to join the conversation to discuss more about FGM. I'm joined by my friend who will introduce himself.
Machi Lunano ndio jina langu, na nina hakika ya kwamba tutakapomaliza hii kipindi tutakuwa tumesemezana na tumeelimishana kwa yale ambayo wengine wetu labda tunayafahamu, na nyinyi ambao pia mjapata nafasi ya kuwa na katika haya masuala tutapata nafasi pia kuwa na sisi na kutuuliza maswali kupitia kwa mitandao zetu za kijamii.
So, maybe tunaweza anza na hii story. Sometimes tunaona kwa news kukatwa, kutairishwa, female genital mutilation. But hii story ni kweli na ni communities gani ambazo zina practice? Na madam, how is this happening? Maybe we can start with John.
Ni kweli FGM inafanyika katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Na mimi nitaanzia kwa kusema FGM ni violation ya human rights kwa wasichana wetu. Hii inafanyika sana kwa northeastern part of Kenya, inafanyika pia kwa Ma community, Kajiado, Narok na sehemu zingine ambao Maasai wanaishi.
Yeah, hii story ni real, na ukeketaji unaendelea kulingana na jamii ambazo zimeweka zile mila zao ambazo zinawaelekeza pahali ambapo wanafikiria kwamba wanapotekeleza haya mambo ina uashirio fulani. It's a culture that people believes that if they practice, it is one way of growth. It's one way of sanctification, that someone is getting anatoka kutoka umbo fulani au umri fulani, anawekwa katika nyanja nyingine katika jamii zao. Kwa hivyo tukitaja maeneo ambayo mambo haya yanafanyika, maeneo ya Pokot yanafanyika, maeneo ya kule Kisii yanafanyika, maeneo ya kule Wakuria zinafanyika, na maeneo mengi. Lakini sasa hizi imekuwa ya kwamba kwa sababu ya kukua na mambo ya migration, internal migration within the country, utapata ya kwamba inafanyika kila mahali, ikiwemo hata miji mikuu, na pia zile town ambazo zina wakazi ambao wanatoka katika zile sehemu ambao wanabelieve ya kwamba FGM is one of their culture and it must be practiced. So we cannot sit here and say that in this specific region there is no FGM, because already there is that coexistence, and people are intermarrying, people are coming together, people are having these conversations. So the only question we'll be asking, how is it done, and how secure is it, or how insecure is it for our women?
I love the feedback.
I would like to add on his point. Amesema that we cannot put this practice, we cannot identify it to a certain region. Na I think hiyo kitu ni ukweli, kwa sababu pia siku hizi FGM wame-medicalize in a way that wanaona kama si kwenda kwa the elderly, the people who used to do FGM kitambo, like wale wa shosho, labda herbalists, au ndio walikuwa na keketa wasichana. Lakini siku hizi sasa wanapelekea madaktari, which wanadhani it is a progressive culture, but it is not. FGM is still FGM, and it can happen anywhere. Na to assume that it is not there, it is there. Just because you have not met someone mwenye undergo FGM, haimaanishi that people have not gone through this practice. And I feel like there are better ways to have a rite of passage. Isikuwe ni lazima I will use an example of the men. Vile John alikuwa anatuambia sometime back, alikuwa anasema there are men who went through circumcision the traditional way, there are men who went through circumcision through like the medical way. So either way, it is a rite of passage umefanya na it has been done, and it doesn't make you less of a man. So hiyo yao ni different, but tukiangalia sisi there is no medical, hakuna proof imetokea that FGM inatusaidia sisi kama wasichana like the guys. So I feel like it is happening, and it should not happen because medically it has not been proven to be beneficial to us as ladies. Yes.
Thank you for bringing the aspect of the health benefits of, because there is no evidence that shows that FGM iko na any health benefit. Nakumbuka nikigrow up, mazee neighbors wangu walikuwa na go through it because mimi nimegrow coach. Wasi wakocha, I hope mnaona hii podcast yetu. So nimegrow coach, and at some point ningesikia hizi stories kwa zinaongelewa chini ya maji, but of course ukiwa mtoi kuna venye utajua tu vitu, and I would see wasichana wakijificha na wakifanyiwa hizi vitu. They didn't know, of course, najua hizi story. Na labda tunaweza ongelea effects za FGM ni gani. Dem akigo through FGM, what does this mean for them? Labda kumektu watu aware what FGM does to women. John, tunaweza anza na wewe?
Tunaweza anza na mimi, na niseme FGM namba moja inakataza wasichana ile right yao ya education. Msichana akikaribia ama akifanyiwa FGM, yeye anakuwa ashamed kukuja shuleni. Na pia hata hawampati ile chance ya kukua na hili ndo arudi shuleni. Na pia kule shuleni wale ambao pia hawafanyiwi FGM, na kuna wanakaa na wale wasichana ambao washafanyiwa, wanakuwa stigmatized. Na pia inawafanya wakuwe na a lot of stress and depression. Wanaona ni kama wao si wasichana ama wasichana kamili na hawafai kuishi. Hiyo ni ya kwanza.
Labda unaweza tuelezea ni impact gani FGM?
Kwa ujumla FGM sio jambo ambalo yafaa lipewe nafasi katika jamii yetu. Manake inakuja na madhara mengi, ikiwemo pia magonjwa. Na unajua FGM inafanywa katika sehemu nyeti za jinsia ya kike. Na unajua ya kwamba sisi kama washikadau ambao tunahakikisha kwamba afya ya uzazi ya kina dada wetu inapewa kipaumbele. Utasikia ya kwamba kuna maambukizi ya fistula, gonjwa ambalo ni hatari sana katika jinsia ya kike, ambayo inasababishwa pia ikiwemo miongoni mwa mambo mengine hii mambo ya FGM. Jambo lingine ni kwamba FGM ambayo haijaandalishwa katika vyombo vyetu vya kisheria inasababisha wale ambao wanataka kufanyia maeneo ambayo hayana usafi. Kwa hivyo issues of mambo ya usafi haizingatiwi, na inaambatana na magonjwa mengine ambayo pia inaleta changamoto na ambayo ni very very expensive to be treated. Depending on which facilities are you also going to get the services from. Number two, you realize that those women who have undergone an FGM as a culture, they have been taken through the rite of passage. So it's an information that you are mature enough to get married. At that point, you are also communicating to this lady that you need not to continue the education, you need not to become a housewife. So in short, wewe kazi yako ni kuzaa. Uzae. Hawa wanadada wetu wananyimwa nafasi pia kujihusisha na masuala muhimu katika jamii yetu, ikiwemo uongozi, ikiwemo kujishughulika kujenga uchumi wetu. And that's why the rate of dependency between women and men is very high. So automatically it is introducing us to another topic of contribution towards poverty. Where there is a lot of FGM practices, you realize that the rate of poverty is very high. So ni jambo ambalo sisi kama taifa, sisi kama wananchi, sisi kama washikadau lazima tuhamasishe jamii kwamba haya mambo hayaleti changamoto njema yoyote katika masuala ya kujenga taifa letu. Instead, it's a discriminative entity. The only problem that we are also having is that you realize that there's nowhere it is written on a woman that she has undergone this harmful practice. So mkitembea kule mijijini you cannot know, ukikuwa mashambani you cannot know, but the impact of it can only be felt if you come around these ladies. And unfortunate thing is that they, at the point they are taken through that harmful practice, they have not been in a position to understand themselves. When they are still young, they cannot make decisions. So by the time they are realizing themselves, it's already too late for the correction.
And thank you so much for bringing the aspect of it has no any benefits. Poverty. We are speaking about in the SDGs, poverty eradication. We are speaking about issues of education. But again, FGM denies women access to education and them achieving or realizing their potential. Maybe Pamela.
Before Pamela comes, there is this problem that came in 2017 with some leaders who wanted to vie for very specific political positions. And this one happened in Baringo. I won't mention the area, where a leader was forced to ensure that his wife has gone through this practice. And unfortunately, the wife or the woman was not coming from their community. So it was very, very difficult for the man to make that decision. But because he must just have to make it due to his political aspiration, he was forced to ensure that his wife has gone through the FGM. And the most worsening part, or the most tragic part of this is that after the circumcision, after the FGM practice, still the man lost the seat. So you can imagine you've lost the seat, and at the same time you have forced yourself to take your wife through a very painful situation. Nakumbuka hii si kama ukeketaji, sio kama kutahiri kwa chinzia kiume ambayo inapitia hospitali. Unakatwa ukionanga. Unajua unakatwa hivyo inatoka. Alafu treatment haipo. So wanakuwekea vitu ambazo zina haujui ni madawa gani hizo za kienyeji, ambazo ni chungu, ambazo so even if you are a lady amongst other women, you cannot explain to your kids what you are feeling, because at the end of the day kids don't want to understand that you have gone through that practice. So haya ndio baadhi ya mambo ambayo yanasababisha pia wanaume ambao wanasikiza hizi vitu, especially from those communities that are doing this. A woman is a woman. The only practice that a woman can make for us is to give birth. That's the painful practice that we are allowed to have in our humanity.
And by choice.
And by choice. So if the women are willing to participate in leadership, if the women are feeling to participate in our economic growth, if our women want to participate in education, let it not be stopped because of our ignorance in terms of we need to attain this culture. We are not a culture that is killing our people. We are a culture that is very progressive, a culture that has a legal framework on what to be done and not to be done.
And thank you so much for bringing the aspect of male engagement. And I want to thank you, John and Martin, for joining this conversation and speaking on behalf of men, encouraging men. We don't want to kill the people we are serving. By the way, who made culture if it's not us? So we can still have reforms and take up cultures that are more progressive and also promote human rights. So Pamela, is there anything you'd want to add onto the conversation?
Maybe on the effects part, the effects that FGM have on our girls. I may mention most of it, Martin has mentioned most of it, but I would like to highlight that first of all, amesema it is very brutal. It is a brutal process. Like hakuna hata something to numb you so that you don't feel. Hizo vitu zinaitwaje? Ile dawa unadungwa so that you don't feel the pain. Hiyo ya uchungu, yes. Yani it is brutal, and do you know what that what that does to a girl? It traumatizes you psychologically. You are not okay. You are not. Imagine unakatwa the clitoris, and some other cultures pia wanakata the labia minora, inaitwa nini hizo vitu.
Alafu wanashona, you know,
imagine
that.
Venye nasema hiyo point imenikumbusha pia ukikata msichana clitoris na labia majora, labia minora na umshone na hiyo nyuzi zao, mnadeny huyo msichana pia a chance to enjoy
sexual pleasure.
Every person is entitled. Hata wasichana pia kina mama wako entitled to enjoy sex. Just like men. Tusione kama ni sisi tu wanaume tunastahili to enjoy sex. And we deny them a chance also to enjoy sex.
I was also going to say that point, but I am grateful that he has brought it out. Coming from a man,
Women power.
coming from a man, that is very nice, a progressive statement. And I wanted to say that even the men, when you want to encourage FGM, unapata, sometimes they marry the lady, and then after some time, since the lady does not enjoy sex and does not want to be with the man, sasa mwanaume tena hamtaki, anataka mtu mwenye hajakeketwa. So it is very, it doesn't make sense for people who are pushing for this thing to happen, and then our men again, wenye bado wana push for that idea, bado ndio wana reject the girls who have been keketwad, wamekuwa circumcised. So it is such a bad thing, and I don't think this should be, we should not be discussing this in 2022.
Imagine.
Hii kitu inafaa ikuelimisha kitambo.
Unajua sex ni tamu. Sex is the only unity between a man and a woman. So the moment you want to remove that sweetness,
Hata intimacy.
so what you are doing is to tell this woman that you are now that you are just a tool to give birth. So wewe ni tufanye ngono, wewe ushike mimba uzae, nothing more than that. And again, you also realize that where these practices are happening, women are made to be, hao ndio wafanyikazi, hao ndio walishe bwana, hao ndio walee watoto, hao ndio wafanye kila kitu. Na ushajiuliza zile jamii ambazo na practice hizi vitu, utagundua ya kwamba mabibi wao wengi huwa watembee mjini. So they have not been given that opportunity or a chance to also go to urban areas. But their men are in the urban areas. They are enjoying sex with other women. So why should they want to enjoy sex with, why should they allow their women also get married to other communities without them having been taken through this harmful practice, so that their women can also enjoy sex with other people? So when you do this katuna keketa hizi hawa kina mama wetu, hawa wasichana wetu, that control right, hiyo unawanyima. Na pia unawaambia kwamba wasipatane na mwanaume mwingine. What you are also doing, you are discouraging in the marriages. Because the communities that don't believe in FGM will not marry a woman who has been circumcised. So is that growing our diversity? Of course not. That's why we realize that some areas that these practices are happening, they are more marginalized, they are more vulnerable, they are very poor, the education system is very worsened. There is a lot of fights every day in those communities. So na kitu kingine ya kushangaza, utapata ya kwamba wale washikadau wakuu katika serikali zetu,
gatekeepers,
wanatoka yale maeneo. Wale ambao wako katika nyanza za ulinzi wa usalama wa taifa, wanatoka yale maeneo. Then you come and ask yourself, if we need to have a legislation that is very progressive to stop this, the people who are supposed to implement that legislation are the ones that are supposed to be the law enforcers. And the law enforcers comes from that area that this practice is happening. So how practical will it be that even the law will go through? So yule ambaye anakandamiza sisi pia ni wale washikadau waliomo serikalini ambao hawako tayari kwenda kuzungumza na jamii zao. Now believe me, their daughters are not living in those communities. Wengine wako ngambo. Unasikia mtu anasoma Spain, mtu anasoma wapi? Wewe unakandamizwa hapo, wewe mwanadada, wewe kijana uko hapo, wewe unalisha. In fact, we realize that wale vijana wako huko wanalazimishwa kuoa wasichana ambao wamekeketwa, wanafanyia kazi hawa matajiri kwa kuwachungia kondoo, ng'ombe, ngamia. So you as a young man, do you think you're okay? Do you think you will grow? So these are very challenging aspects that young men from this community should now sit and say, if you give us ladies who are circumcised, we are not willing to marry them. Marry them for yourselves. Because wanakeketa madem kama bado wachanga. They have not even enjoyed any sex activity.
It's very unfortunate to talk about FGM 2022, especially involving adolescent girls and young women. Na 2019, natumai mlikumbuka president akimake commitment ya kuanza FGM by 2022. So huu mwaka umefika 2022
Young people.
Siasa zimeingia, zimekita mizizi. Je, viongozi wetu wakituomba kura, wakituambia watatufanyia hii na hii na hii na hii wakiingia serikalini. Je, kama vijana tunawaambia kwamba sisi tunataka kumaliza FGM katika community zetu. What is our call to action to our leaders? Kwa sababu tusipo wa hold accountable as time ya kutafuta election, issue hata wakipata hizo viti ambazo tutawapigia hawatatusikiza. Na mimi ninasema kama viongozi wa vijana tunastahili tuite vijana wenzetu, tuwaelimishe kuhusu masuala ya FGM, mabaya yake. Tuzidi pia kuhamasisha religious leaders, community gatekeepers ambao pia wamekuwa opposition number 1 kwa kumaliza FGM. Nasikitika kwamba kuna community gatekeepers kama kina mama ambao pia wao wazee washakubali kumaliza FGM. Lakini bado kuna kina mama ambao wanataka, kwa sababu sisi tulifanyiwa, mbona nyinyi wasichana wetu msifanyiwe? Mnaona kama ni ngona hapo vijana.
Na napenda John bring up your point ya religious leaders. And funny thing, I came to realize hakuna religion ina claim hii practice. It is not a requirement in Christianity, Islamic, where Orthodox.
You see, tumejikreatia tu hiyo culture.
It's just a culture.
It's just a culture.
It is not even ni tulijiwekea tu. It is not even encouraged. Kama wewe ni mtu wa kanisa hata, it is not encouraged. Nowhere. So I don't know why we are still having
maybe
this conversation.
We can actually start giving recommendations. John has started us off. So we also continue with this conversation in other social media platforms, because we are on Facebook, we are on Twitter, we are on LinkedIn, and we are on Instagram. So feel free to engage with us. Feel free to tweet. We are also on TikTok at Nena na Binti. So feel free to get in touch with us. And if there is any girl who might be going through this, feel free to get in touch through the Nena na Binti hotline, which we'll be sharing in a few. So tuko hapa because of you, and thank you so much for mentioning about the gatekeepers. And this is the electioneering period. Tunakataa kupoliticize women rights. We are not going to. Women bodies are not political battlegrounds. But wanawake wakekete was. No. We are saying no to violation of human rights. So maybe we can all give recommendation, maybe one, and then we wind up the conversation so that we continue on our different social media platforms. We can start with you, Pam. You're saying something.
My recommendation itakuwa since talk about the religion aspect, I feel like religious leaders, they should really make it clear to these people that Sisi had to encourage, like them as a church or as a religion, they are not encouraging this practice, because religious leaders are very influential. Very influential. They have powers to move people. Waoshe barabara. They have powers. So if they can make people understand that this is not a requirement. To be a Christian, you don't have to be keketwa. You don't have to be cut. You don't have to go through this practice as a rite of passage or anything. So if they can just tell the people that, it will help a lot of people, because I know religious leaders reach numbers through their stations, through their services. So for me, I would say the religious leaders should create awareness in their platform that they have. Yes.
Yeah, I think we made a commitment as a country through the NCBD Plus 25 Kenya Nairobi Summit.
Yeah.
And among the quick wins that we anticipated to have was to end teenage pregnancies, was to end any harmful cultural practices, FGM being one of the priorities. I know there is this program that is being launched by the NCBD in collaboration with the county commissioners' offices or the county security, internal security. So maybe my urge is that the young people from wherever you are, from within our counties, it's high time you start participating in this. And I'm calling upon the NCBD and the national government, the internal security, to ensure that they are having the young people in this discussion, more especially in the areas that we have these problems, so that the young people can as well share their voices and ensure that what they want captured is done. Lastly is that they have progressive laws. I'm calling upon, and we'll be starting from here, that we'll be going to court to see how far is the implementation of those laws. And if not, then we'll want to ask the government, why haven't we seen any prosecution of a matter that has been put into courts? There is evidence enough that FGM is going on. Why is it that we haven't seen any prosecution? Could it be that our government is not willing to protect our women? Or could it be that our government is doing business with our women? Or could it be that our government is part of the problem that they create for them to get resources from? So these are some of the questions that the government must answer as the young people, must answer to our women, because me as Martin, I'm not willing and will not marry a woman that is circumcised. Because the government is not willing to protect that. And I'll advise my fellow men, if you come from those communities, don't allow your aged people to control you, more especially on harmful practices. Tell them this was your culture, we are no longer interested in that culture, just like the way today atuendi kwa ile booth. Unakumbuka ile booth mtu alikuwa anapiga simu. Sasa anapiga simu ile kitambo ulikuwa unaenda unapanga line poster, uchukue pesa imetumwa kutoka Nairobi. Ziliisha, sasa hii ni M-Pesa. So if kama wazee wamekubali M-Pesa, wamekubali simu, na hizo zilikuwa part of culture, walikuwa wanapiganga ndundundu wakipeana information, unakumbuka? So if that is no longer there, they have eradicated that culture. How comes they cannot eradicate a culture that is killing our women in this country?
Yes. Powerful. John.
My parting shot is just like Martin amesema, we need to engage men in this conversation of FGM. We realize and we remain cognizant that men are still the voice and the head of the community. And being our leaders, we want to hear their position in matters ending FGM. The later, the better for our girls.
Thank you so much. Very powerful recommendations from young people.
And you know, like I have one pressing point.
Okay.
I think also FGM inaendelea mostly because hakuna alternative sources of income for these people who are doing it. Kwa sababu unapata pakat mtu anapewa tuseme 3k ama 4k. Alafu anafaa kukat how many people? Around 10 people in a day. That is around 40,000, 50,000 in a day. Akifikiria kwa hii biashara anasema mimi nitatoa wapi pesa? So we need to also create alternative sources of income for these people. Yeah.
So thank you so much for speaking about that aspect, which is very important. And just to wind up this conversation, young people make up 75% of the Kenya's population. And why should we have older people to be the bearers of culture? We can come up with a culture that protects human rights, including the rights of minority persons, the rights of women and girls. And we can promote this because we are the majority population. And during this electioneering period, it's our time to speak about issues of women's rights and issues of girls and women. Continue following Being Bold podcast and following Reproductive Health Network in general. We have platforms on Facebook at Reproductive Health Network Kenya, on Twitter at RHNK.org. On TikTok, we have Nena Nabinti. Also follow Nena Nabinti in all your social media platforms. Thank you so much. Bye. Watch out for the next episode of Being Bold podcast.